Sorry, I forgot to put in a slide about me. There's a few new faces in here. It's really nice to see you. Old faces, love those also. My name is Malene Knudsen. I work as a subject matter expert for Pure. I'm floating around a little bit. I'm here today to talk a little bit about reporting roles. And the reason I am doing that is because Nikolai is on holiday. So he's like, Malene, can you do my job? Yes, of course I can. Always, always. So, so today, we're going to talk about the reporting roles that we have just introduced to Pure here in 528. 527, we started the work a little bit. 528, we have done a massive rework of what we're doing on roles in Pure. So today is all about talking about these roles here. Of course, should something else come up, please ask me along the way. I love questions. I live for questions. And I have 3 kids. They interrupt me all the time. So please do that. Yeah, I guess these are the words. Let's get started. So this is the agenda. So first of all, I just want to highlight the changes that we are adding here to 528. Actually, I think some of you might actually have been upgraded to 528 while sitting here. So the hosted in Europe might actually, if you log into Pure. Oh, you're just about to then. So today, tomorrow, we upgrade to this version here in your production system. So you might have seen it already in your staging system, the changes that we have done. I just want to highlight what are the changes. I'm going to spend a little bit of time just talking about the differences between what we call local roles and what we call global roles. What is the difference on that? Oh, I'm getting closer to winning the beer. Like this. And then I know we took our time to build these reporting roles. We have actually been anticipating these roles coming into Pure, into the report module. We have been screaming for these roles for quite some time. And I want to talk a little bit on why was this so difficult to build these roles? What are all the things we need to care about while building these local roles here? So what is the logic behind these roles? And then I want to go through each of the roles that we have implemented. Exactly what can you expect when you upgrade? If you have users in Pure that already have some reporting roles, what can you expect on that? And what can you expect to see with the new roles we have in Pure? So just so you know what to see when you log into Pure when you get home. And then we have roles in place now, but we also know that we probably need to tweak a little bit. And I just want to highlight a few of the things that I know Nikolai will work on once he's back from Japan. So what are the changes that's coming up on roles also? I'm getting closer to the beer. It's good. Super. So what are we doing? So we started introducing a little bit of changes in 527. I know a few of you noticed that. And now we did a whole batch of changes for the 528. So first of all, global content roles, we had that already in Pure. So global reporter of research output, global reporter of projects. We did some changes to that, and I'm going to talk about that throughout the session today. What are those changes? What can you expect? Because the users who have this role will see a different behavior once they log into Pure. Then we have added local roles, so a role that only have access to a certain part of the organizational hierarchy. They are now in place. Then we had a few existing local roles that has been in there for a while. It was something like reporter of research output, local reporter of projects application. They have actually been in Pure for quite some time. They weren't working in the way we wanted to. So now we have adjusted them. So now they actually work. Isn't that nice? And also, and this is actually one of the highlights. So if you're not taking anything else back, just know that the role called reporter in Pure, up until now, that role only had access to the classical report module. When you upgrade, all of these users with that role will now have access to the new one. Thumbs up? Cool. It means, and I will also just mention it in the end, but what it means is that if you have assigned that role to your users, all of a sudden they will be able to see the new report module. Some of you are nodding, looking happy, because it means you don't have to go in and give them a role again to do reporting in the new module. I know some of you might be a little bit frightened because all of a sudden you have a lot of users who have access to the new report module who haven't learned the new report module. I just want to state that this is what's going to happen when you upgrade. And if you're angry, send an email to Nikolai. Good. And then we have actually introduced what we call a global reporter role. A reporter has access to all different kinds of content, research output, activities, applications, awards, but only on a local level, right? So only on a certain organization. We have now also introduced a global reporter. So it's a role who can report on almost everything in Pure, but won't be able to edit content or anything like that. So it's just a new role that we have introduced. There's a few chairs up here, up in the front. Super. So let's dig into it. Let's go a little step closer into this. So just to sort of highlight, so which roles are actually available now? Who will actually have access to do reports in the new report module? So if we look at it on a global level, we have the administrator, can report as always, report on all different things. We have the new global reporter who has access to all the content in Pure, and on all organizational levels, they can report on anything, more or less. And then we have the global reporter of a specific content. So it could be global reporter of research output, which then will only be able to report on research output. So these are the global roles we have in place. Then we have the local roles. It's, yeah, Bernard. Sorry? Yeah, that has disappeared. And I'll come back to that because a good question. Hold on to that thought. But it has disappeared.
Remind everyone just to, if you've got a question, just so that we can get the mic so we can record the session.
Perfect.
Or, so, Malene, you've got to play back the question for you.
I will play it back. So what Bernard asked was, what about a reporter of confidential content? We have deleted that role again. It didn't work. For us, this is why it's beta, right? We're trying out, it didn't work. So we have done something different about reporting on confidential content. I'll come back to that, Bernard. Hold that thought. So on local level, reporter and reporter of specific content, so you can assign a role to a user saying you are only allowed to report on research output and only on these specific organizations. And everybody is nodding, so I don't know if I really need this slide here. So just to recap, a global role has access to the entire organizational hierarchy, can report on all research output or all projects, no matter where it's placed in the organizational hierarchy. And local roles only have access to content within a certain organizational unit. And there is one thing here to just be a little bit aware of. Because normally in Pure, when we talk about local roles or organizational-based roles, it's all linked to the managing organization. But we have changed that for reporting. So if you have a local reporter of research output on Department of Physics, you will be able to report on all publication that is managed by Department of Physics, but also associated to Department of Physics. So just keep in mind that it's a little bit different there. Everybody understand what that means? So it's in the association part of the research output, but also in the managing part of research output that we look. Perfect. And that has to do with a thing like if you have a publication that is linked to two persons. One of them is from Department of Physics. One of them is from Department of Mathematics. If it's managed by Department of Mathematics, you still want to count for them. So therefore, we look at both the managing and the associated. Cool. So a little difference on the local roles for reporting in relation to the rest of the local roles in Pure. Good. Okay. Perfect. So before stepping in, I said before that these local roles actually have access to reporting on almost everything. And we have, and when I say that, almost everything. So this here is just a screenshot of what a local role can do. So as you can see, it is actually everything. So if you have that role, you will be able to work your way through everything on the editor tab. You'll be able to report on most things on the master data tab. There's a few things, classification schemes. Who want to report on that anyhow, right? But there's a few things. But in general terms, you can report on whatever is in Pure. If it's a local role, only the ones on your organization level, but of course, the entire things in master data. We don't have a hierarchy there. If you have a global reporter role, you can report on Pure. Good. Yeah.
Sorry, I can't see the screen that well to read all the individual things, but if you've got a local reporter,
Yeah.
And you're using the new research outputs assessment module, would they be able to report on that?
No, ref is a monster on its own, and we know that everything in ref we need dedicated roles to handle that. So for those of you who's scared about those, ref is just a monster on its own with its own roles assigned to that. Yeah, no need to worry. Oh, James! Oh no, not the Christ. Oh, please make it a simple one.
No, I was hoping to. I was wondering whether or not Lisa was actually asking about whether or not the reporting role could report on reviews, as in continuous assessment review. Yes, was that right? Okay. Okay. So I think we need to do a little bit of experimentation on that, but we have absolutely included all the classification questions, etc., that associate to the research output reviews into the model. So if that's enabled, it should be possible. So it is a very specific thing that I think we probably ought to do a bit of work on.
Oh, now we also have work for next week. Oh, that's right.
I wondered what is the difference between you have research outputs and research output contributors and projects participants. Why is there a difference? And
it's a really good question, and it's a masterclass on its own. The research output contributor, if you start with that, you are not in itself looking at research output, but you're looking at the contributor part of the research output. So everything that has to do with your authors. It's a really, really powerful reporting tool that enables you to go in and say, I only want the ones where I have an internal first author, or I want to do something. I only want to report on the contributors that has the role author. It's a really, really powerful tool, and it's a little bit tricky. So I think we need to do a masterclass on these contributor types. There is a pure and simple webinar on it also where Nicola try and explain it a little bit, but it is one of those that, let me say, it's really tricky to get a hold of, but it can do magic for you. It's one of the first places where we can actually go in and say, if you look at persons, we have persons affiliations, it's a really good one. You can go in and say, I only want to look at the person who is currently working as a PhD, instead of getting all the persons that has been a PhD at a certain point in time. So it's really, really powerful tool and tricky.
Hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So you said under master data that everybody could report because there weren't organizational affiliations. So I think
sorry. Person's organization is affiliated to yeah, of course. They are no, yeah, of course. Sorry. Thank you, Bonnie. If you have a local role of being a local reporter role, you will only be able to report on the persons within your organizational hierarchy and the organizations within your organizational hierarchy. Journals, external organizations, publishers, and so on, they are not linked to a hierarchy, so everybody has access, or everybody with a reporter role have access to that. Perfect. Thanks. Yeah. So what is the lot? Yeah.
Talk.
Yeah.
So if you've got a highly collaborative institution, would you really need the local reporter role at all?
Yeah. So if you have, so the question was, if you have a really collaborative organization, would you need the local roles? If it was me, no, I wouldn't care. I would give them the global roles and say, hell, you can report on whatever you want and filter it down to whatever you want. But I know that many universities are not interested in having heads of university, head of department being able to report on another department, and therefore they will be using it. So no, I wouldn't care, but I know a lot of people would care. Yeah, but yeah, it's for you to decide. We have, as always, and Henrik hates me when I say, we make Pure as flexible so you can use it in the way you want. And then you can decide how flexible you want to be. Right. Cool. So let's dig a little bit into it. So what can you then report on? So let's say I'm a global reporter of persons. What can I then actually report on when I log in? So if I log in, I can report on anything that has to do with persons. I can see all the details on persons. I can find the title of the person, his job title. I can find his ORCID IDs. I can find whatever IDs, everything that has to do with a person. I can report on that. There is, of course, because it's Pure, a few exceptions. We have to make exceptions. On persons, we have something called sensitive to fields. It's something like date of birth, it's gender, I think it's retirement date. Is there one more, Henrik? Nationality. These are sensitive fields, so we have chosen not everybody is allowed to report on that. You have to be administrator. And then there's something crazy about keywords. So if you have put in keywords that's only limited to a certain group of users, then you cannot report on it either. That's it. Besides that, if you're a reporter, if you're a global reporter of persons, you can report on anything that has to do with persons. But you cannot really navigate that far out. So if you want to see, you can sort of navigate one step out. So you can say, I would like to see how many publications that person has. So you can do that. You can move to one step out in sort of the relations. And when you get there, you get really limited because you have given this user permissions to report on persons. They can see a little bit sort of details that's publicly available anyhow. So you can see sort of the number of publications. You can see the title of those publications, but can't really see that much more on publications. We say it's a limited view. It's more or less what you can find in what we call our short render in Pure. That's the only thing you can do. You cannot filter on research output. You don't have permissions to filter on research output. So if you have a user who also needs to report on research output, then you need to give that user more permissions. So if you have told you can only report on persons, then you can more or less only report on persons. And you can also not navigate, so you could go from persons to research output and do a limited sort of things on research output, and you cannot move any further out. You cannot go from research output to related projects because you don't have permissions for that. And that's one of the biggest changes we have done to the global roles in Pure. Yeah.
Available, does it mean records with visibility public?
No, it means records with the visibility of being public, backend, or thank you. It's late. Campus only. And now we can come back to Bernard's question. Can you report on confidential content? That is for you to decide, actually. So we have put in a setting for you as a university. So you can choose, should your reporters have access to confidential content? As default, your reporter roles will not have access to content that is confidential. None of them, except administrator. If you want your reporters to look at confidential content, then you need to enable a setting on that. Look in the release notes, there's a link to where it is. It's on the system setting confidentiality, I think, and you can find it in there. But as default, your reporter roles do not have access to confidential content. So it's your choice. Yep.
Thanks, Malene. Sorry if I'm confused about this, but so if, for example, they start off, they have the reporter of research output role, a local role for an organization, and they then start off the report with the research output record, yeah? And then they connect then, as you can now, to the journal, for example, or external organization to see country of collaborators, for example, or country of affiliations. Will they still be able to do that without the reporter role, or do they need to have a reporter role for that?
So what they can do as it is right now, if you have a role that gives you access to research output, you can see the connected external organization, but you cannot see, I don't think you can see country on that external organization, and you cannot filter on country. So if you want that person or that user to be able to do that, he also need a role of global reporter of external organization. Then he can go into details on the external organization. Okay. And then just ref content. We'll never be able to get to that. Just a little note on that. Yeah. Okay. So why did we take so long to build these damn, oh, I'm not allowed to say that, roles in Pure? It did take us a while. And it did take us a while because we ended up in an enormous amount of discussions internally on what should you actually be able to do. So here's a scenario. You have the local role reporter of research output. What should you then have access to? And that took us a little bit. So research output not managed by your organization. Should you have access to confidential content? Should you have access to confidential content that's not on your organizational unit, not managed by your organization, managed somewhere else? Normally you wouldn't be able to find them in Pure, but should you be able to find them in reporting? Should you have access to person, journals, publishers, all of these sort of master data thing? How about metrics? Should you have access to that? If you report on research output, should you then be able to report on metrics on journals? Related projects, should we be able to look at that? Should you be able to look at the funding of these projects? Because that's actually further out in the chain of relations. So all of these things we were running around in the office talking about. We have a table with a puzzle on it, and me and Nicola have spent numerous hours there discussing those things and putting puzzle pieces together, drinking a lot of coffee. So this is actually what we came up with in the end. So this is how it works. If you're a local reporter of research output, yes, you have access to research output that is not managed as long by your organization, as long as it's associated to your organization, then you can report on it. Confidential research output, yeah, you have access to that, but only if you choose to give them access. If you enable that setting, then the local reporter can report on confidential research output. So what about things that are associated to your organization, but managed by another organization, but is confidential? No. And this is a little bit tricky, because it actually means if a local reporter logs into Pure and report on things that are associated with his organization, he will get another number if you do it as an administrator, because you will have access to see confidential across the entire organization. Is that clear? It's a tricky one. Yeah. But it can give you a little bit of different numbers there. Mm-hmm. Publisher, persons, yeah, you can, but only this limited view. You can only see what's actually in the short render of a person, the short render of a journal. So, yeah. What about metrics and on journals? And this is actually one of the fun ones because reporting is so complex. Actually, you cannot, in theory, you cannot get to journal metrics. If you're a reporter of research output, you can go to the associated journal, but you cannot navigate your way out to metrics on these journals. If you want to do that, you need an additional role of being reporter of journals. Then you will be able to get to the metrics. But then we introduced a few versions ago. I don't know if any of you saw that, but when you're on research output, you can say, give me the metrics related to the year of publishing. You can actually still get to those metrics. So if you have a research output published in 2020, you can go to the metrics of 2020, but you cannot get the full picture of journal metrics. So it's a little bit, yeah, that might be something we need to look into, but you can do that as it is today. Small thing. How about related projects then? Yeah, you can. You can get to the related projects of the research output, but only in a limited view and with no option of filtering on the projects. Confidential projects, no. Only the projects that are publicly available backend or campus, sorry. And then the funding of the project, no. With a local report or research output, you can only go out one step in the relations. Tricky, huh? This is why we have 50-minute workshop on this here. Did I lose anybody along the way here? Then I'm available after this session also. You can just come and ask me. Should we have a look at it? See how it works in practice? Because I did actually bring a server with me today. So we'll run through a few scenarios just so you can see how it looks in real life. So we'll start out by having a look. Did I see a question, Bonnie? Ish. I saw ish a question.
So I think where I've been struggling with this along the way is in my brain is aligning this with the capabilities of an editor.
Yeah.
And so if you're given somebody an editor of research output and then they're a reporter of research output for the unit, to make sure that what they see as an editor aligns with what they see as a reporter. And that's where my brain has been stuck.
Yep. Yep. As a reporter, you will actually be able to see more. No. Well, research output, if you remove some filters in Pure, you can see every single piece of research output. But if you look at the ones that are editable or related to you, as a reporter, you will actually be able to get to a little bit more based on these association parts, where the other one is only linked to managing organizations. So there is a little bit of a difference. Yeah. Yes. We have actually, can you remember people who have been here for a while, can you remember we have this reportable filter? Me and James was discussing it the other day. We want it back. Yeah. Yeah. Nodding. James, let's go home and make it. Yeah. So, sorry, the reportable filter is looking at both the associated and the managing organizations. You'll be able to see exactly the number of research output you can report on if you report on anything, right? Everything, no filters and so on. So that's the reportable filter. We took it away because it was a really heavy filter. It took a while to load the pages. We need to get it back. Okay, so what we'll do now is, do we still have time? So let's log into Pure and see how it works. And I had come up with all the scenarios I could come up with. So we want to the idea is we want to report on research output, and we want to include related project and including funding information. It's a simple scenario, right? So what does it look like if you report on research output? What does it look like if you report on research output? You also have some editor roles. Is there any difference? What if you're a reporter of research output and reporter of projects? So you have two reporting things. What if you're just a reporter? Simple scenario. What if you're a reporter of research output and a personal user? Does it do anything? And what if you're a global reporter of research output? I couldn't come up with anything else. Let's look at this. See if we have time, or else I'm here. Also tomorrow we can talk. Let's see if I can find Pure. So this is Pure. This is small. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Is it up here? Zoom, I'll zoom. Is anybody in the back? Can you see this? Do we need to make it a little bit bigger? Yeah, perfect. All good? Oh, this is familiar faces, right? It's Pure, you all love it. Oh, we all love it. Going to the reporting tab. No, sorry. What I actually want to do is I'll start out by, I'm administrator. King and queen of Pure, right? So I want to change user and try to be something else and see what they see. So I'll start by looking at the reporter of a reporter. Oh, they have moved it. It's not my own. Reporter of research output. Report of research output. Let's start with that one. Yeah. So the scenario is, I want to report on research output. I want to see the related projects, and I want to see the related funding. And right now, I only have reporting permissions to research output. Yeah? Good. So I'll start out, blank workspace. I'll start out with research. Oh, first of all, this is what I can see. I can only, as my driver, select research output, or I can select this contributor thing, the magic, if I want to do that. Then I'll start with research output, just do it simple. As you can see here, research output, if I want to add additional information on research output, I add a new column, and you can see it's all here. If I want to filter my research output, I don't want to see it all, but I want to filter it down by something, I have all the options that you know. So far, all is good, right? So what I want to do instead is I actually want to add a column here on the related projects. Related, and then the entire long list. Sorry, I never find it. So hang on. I want a search thing, project. If you see it, shout here, the related projects. And I can do that. So now I know that there is one project linked to here, to this research output here, right? And what I can do, as you can see over here, when you look at the values, the list is not as long as we used to have it, right? We used to have a long list of different values I can select for projects. Actually, I can only select these values here. One of the things I can select is actually the title of the project. I can get to that. So far, so good. But I can't really get to much more than that. It's very limited view of projects. And the same, if I go up here and say I want to filter on these projects, and what it will say is, yes, a very limited view on filtering. A little bit the same filtering options as you can see in the short render. This is what I can get to, right? And if I then look one step further, I can go to content related to projects, and now I can't do anything. I don't have permissions for it. Yeah? If you click on the project, you'll not see everything. If I click on the project, I'll be able to see this sort of short render, which is more or less the same as you can filter on and you can put in as values. This is some of the things that we might want to tweak a little bit. Exactly what should you be able to, but this is what we have chosen so far. Let's say the short render, things that is in that short render. Yeah. So if you want him to be able to report on more things on project, you need to add additional roles to that user. Cool, easy peasy. Oh, how do I close this again? I don't think we have time to look at all the scenarios, but let's just look at a few of them. So what can I then do if I turn in as being reporter of research output, but actually editor of projects? So I have editor permissions for the project. So let's do that. So it's something we research out. And projects, report research output, and editor of projects, right? So I can edit projects, but I can only report on research output. So let's have a look at that. So you can see the same here. I can only report on things I have reporting permissions to. So I can only select research output. All the same here. If I click here, I can still go to content related to research output and find projects. I should have taken something in the top, related projects. But as you can see here, I don't have reporting permissions. So we have simply sort of distinguished now between being an editor and being a reporter. In the classical report module, when you could edit something, you could also report on it. We have moved that away. You can only report on things you are allowed to report on. That's it. Easy peasy. Yeah? Cool. And then finally, let's take one more and then say that's it. Let's say I now want to look at what can I do if I have the reporter role in Pure. stop switch user, and I'll switch again to reporter. Let's see. So this reporter has access to all sorts of different content. You can see here, it actually grants me access to all of these things on my server here. I can start with research output, and now it says reportable content here. It's just to say I have a limited view. It's a local role, so we have limited what you can report on. We can only report on things you have permissions to report on based on the organizational hierarchy. So that's what it says here. Tries to say. So content related to research output. Oh, sorry. I take projects, and now you'll be able to see all of the sudden I can choose all the values in here. Yeah. So my expectations is that all of these content reporter role, I'm not sure they're going to be used. I think many of you will turn to just give them the reporter role and they'll have access to whatever. And I can also now just to paint the picture, a little content related to projects. I can now go to the related award if I can find it. Oh, you see the picture, it's here. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So with the reporter role, I have permissions to navigate all the way out.
Hi, Malene. Sorry. Thanks very much. But
Thank you.
sorry. So with the reporter role,
Yeah.
when following up from the lady at the front's question, so when you do actually click on the related award record, for example, and it opens up, will it open up the award record, and what view of the award record? Is it the short render view, or is it an uneditable view, or?
And now I can't remember. So I don't have edit permissions to it. So I only get this here, right? Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
I think actually maybe you might be wrong saying that giving out the global role is what the people would like. My experience is that we have a lot of people who are only interested in doing reports about their own very small research group. And then if we should give them the global role, they will be almost annoyed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What I meant to say was the reporter role. So either a global reporter role or reporter role. But if you don't want to give people too many permissions, if you don't want to have them access applications, award, and stuff like that, well, then go in and use the content reporter roles instead. But yeah, let's see what happens. Cool. Here, the interesting part is actually now I'm moving around in my slides. Don't tell Tina, she will not be pleased. But the interesting part here is actually also something to be aware of when you share report workspaces. Because if you are an administrator and you create a report that you think is really, really cool, and you want to share that with your users, you need to be a little bit careful because that user may not have access to reporting on what you have created. So what I've done here is now let me turn back to being my reporter of research output. So I only have access to report research output. Now so now I'm administrator, just so you see it before I do anything. So what I have done is I have created sort of a report. I have research output, I have projects here, and I have a little bit details on projects. I have some awards and some external organization. So sort of moving out in, so it has a lot of content. What I can do is I can share that workspace. I can only share it with users who have access to the driver. These are the only users I can share it with. So I can share it with anybody who has access to reporting on research output. These are the person I can share this workspace with. But let's log in as a user who is a reporter of research output and see what they can see. So when I log in as this user again, here. So now I'm logged in with that, and I shared this workspace with this user here. And once I go here and find my workspace is shared with me, I can now see this workspace here. But when I open this workspace, we take the permissions of that user into account. So I'm able to find research output, but only the research output that is linked to my organizational role in Pure. So it's limited, so you'll see the reportable content has been added. I have a limited view, only the ones for my organization. And when I get to projects, now it turns a little bit tricky because it says unknown here. The reason was that in the master, the one I shared, I have added a filter that this user don't have access to. So we'll have to remove that filter. So we sort of indicate there was a filter, but we have removed it. So now it's just a unknown. It has no effect at all. But I can, of course, still see the project because I do have the option to get one step out. When you get to the collaborative partners, it's another story. I don't have access. I don't have permission for that when I'm a report or research output. So what we do is we have put in this, we call him padlock is the word. And we put that in to say, in the original report, there was actually something here, but we won't let you see it. You don't have permission. So this is how we handle it. And therefore also the data story might be a little odd because you could have created a data story that users don't have access to. So when you share workspaces with somebody, when they open that workspace, it's the permission of that user that comes into play when looking at the workspace. Should you be one who shares the data story instead? So if you share the data story with somebody, I can also show you that. I think I did that. So I actually shared the data story also. So if I go to my data snapshot, I think I have a snapshot shared with me. It's here. I have shared it with this user. But when I open snapshot, the snapshot is based on the permissions of the user who created the story. So here I'll be able to see everything when I open the snapshot because it's the permission of the creator. The workspace is the permission of the user who logs in, the data story, the permissions of the creator. Yeah? You're cool.
Why did you make that decision?
Why did we? I sent this question for Nikolai. He made the decision. I think actually it's because we want to broaden up who's allowed to see content. So you should just be aware when you do those data story on who is the end user of it. Can you remember the story?
Yeah.
And I can remember the story.
I'm pretty sure the purpose was if you want to share, this is our how we did in a certain area or something. So you share with your I don't know, some sort of administrator at the university, but it's not a pure administrator, but they should be able to see the report, how it was. Yeah.
50 minutes? 10 minutes.
So basically make sure that what you're seeing is what was intended by the user creating the report, right? So it's the result I want to share with not the world, but a wider audience who shouldn't be able to drill into the details further, because that's what you can when you have access to the report.
Exactly.
Then you can navigate further and you can do further stuff if you had access there. So it's just to get access to the final result.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to give an example of just that, because Malene helped me create such a report. For the central administration, they needed data concerning the entire university, but those administrators, they never use Pure, and I don't want them inside Pure. I don't want them to do the reports. So I was actually able to create, with the aid of Malene, create the report and schedule these snapshots to be sent at certain intervals. So that's actually really handy, even though it does sound a bit scary.
It is a bit scary. I told Nicola and Henrik outside, I can never fill in 50 minutes. And now we're running out of time. So sorry about that. I always talk too much. What I just wanted to do, just as a recap here in the end, just to say exactly what can you expect when you upgrade. So just pointing it out so you don't get any surprises. Probably will, but still, we'll try to move that away. For the global content reporter, if you have been using those, global reporter research output, global research reporter of projects, stuff like that. When you upgrade to 528, we have changed their permissions, so it now follows the logic I have just described. You will only be able to report on content you are directly able to do. That means that they might have created some report that worked perfectly fine up until you upgraded. What will happen when they open those reports now is they no longer have permission for it, and they will see a padlock in all of those places where they no longer have permissions. So just when you see that, we don't see that as a bug. We actually see it as the roles working as we intended them to work. Yeah, it does look a little bit like a bug though, but it's actually the intention, and this is what we want to do keeping going forward. Yes. Yes, good. So we had a few roles already. I hope nobody of you have been using it, but we had a few local roles in place. They were called reporter of research output, reporter of project, reporter of application awards. They had the same problem as before. Really, they didn't filter correctly down in hierarchy. They will be filtering correctly now. They will still have that role when you log in, and now it will filter correctly down to organization unit they are allowed to report on. They didn't do that really before. And they will have the same problem. They will, if they have saved some report definitions, they might now see padlocks because we have limited what they are able to report on. Perfect. Yes, the reporter, just one more time, all the users, I know some of you may have hundreds of these users who had the reporter role, which gave them access to the classical report module. They will now also be able to report in the new report module. And again, if you hate that, send Nicolai an email. Yeah.
Does this affect the old module as well?
No, there's no effect for the old module. They'll still have access to the old module. They will have access to that module. So June next year, and then a year after that when we will retire the old. But until then, no problem. They'll still be able to use. We haven't touched anything there. So they just got more. It's a Christmas gift. Oh, whatever you get in October, I don't know. Halloween gift, is that a thing? Trick or treat? Yeah, local roles, they've had access, and now you also have the option of, so the global reporter role didn't exist before, so it's just a new role you can start assigning to users. Yeah, so nothing really is fun to say there. Yes, sharing, we just covered that. I'll skip that. Boop, boop, boop. Sharing, yes. Because Nicolai is not here, what he has been doing is he's created a blog post in what we call our reporting community. If you don't know the reporting community, you should go there. It's a fun place. In there, we have stored a lot of report definitions that you can just steal and put into your own report. The idea is when you create something cool, Bushra has helped me a few times with some cool reports. We are added into the reporting community, so you can just take them, put them into your own pure server and run them. In there, there's also a blog post on all the things Nicolai have been going through in regards to creating these roles here. There's a lot of comments there. You can comment also, and if you hate the reporting, put it in there also, he'll know that. But in there, there's also the missing filters and values is also in this reporting community. So come, join us. It's a fun place. Yeah. 5 minutes. Oh, God. Super. And then final things. I'm on time. I love it. There's a few things we need to do. There's some things around sharing of data stories. We know that right now you can only share data stories with people who do have reporting permissions already. So you can only share with people who's actually capable of going in and making their own reports, more or less. So we need to update sharing a little bit so you can start reporting first of all, the first step I think Nikolai will be working on is being able to share with other users who can log into Pure, but don't necessarily have reporting permissions. So you can share with head of departments and don't give them reporting permission so they cannot mess up stuff, right? But or make wrong reports. But you can share data stories with them. That's our first step. Right now, you need reporting permissions in order to get to these shared data stories. Once we're done with that, Nikolai also thinks we need to look at what if they never log into Pure? Should they? So with the classical report module, we could just send an email with the file in it. We're not going to do that. We're not going to send, but we need to somehow find a way for users who do not log into Pure to be able to get to a report anyhow. So that's sort of the next steps in line, but it's coming, not right now. And then we talked a little bit about, so you can go to related project, but you can only see a limited view. So we have chosen the short render, and we might need to look at, is the short render enough? And we don't want to open it too much. So it's a discussion, and we love your input on it. Is this really annoying, or so is it enough? We need your feedback. So that's something we need to look at in regards to roles. And then, of course, there's a lot of other things we need to look at before we take the beta tag off. But these are the roles. Pure. I made it. Oof, sweating. Did we cover all questions? Anything? Bernard, did you get an answer? Oh God. It's too late. It's too late now. You got no, no, please.
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much for doing the roles, Malene.
No,
because we can now roll out the new reporting module to our users. So thank you so much.
Should I mention on that we have the client certification? It's just rolled out, right? Becky, my favorite colleague. No offense, sorry. But she is actually right now doing a client certification in reporting. So it will come out. I just asked Morten outside when it's ready. He said, we don't know. But it will come out as you can be certified in making reports. Yeah. Okay. Let's call it a day.